Welcome to the Gazelle School of Business webinar on building a powerful and simple website. This is one of many free webinars we're offering to the piano service industry that'll cover every topic you can imagine related to building and running a piano service business. Now, our team will be monitoring the chat and Q&A, so ask your questions there, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can at the end. All right, let's dive right in. You work too hard honing your craft to have the internet leave you behind. Caring about excellence and doing work that matters for people who care is a good thing, which means your skills should not be hidden behind a poor website. If you're going to dedicate yourself to this craft, you deserve to be heard online. If this is your first time joining one of our webinars, I'm George, and I'm here tonight with Timothy Barnes and the team at Gazelle, where we help you save time, wow your customers, and grow your piano service business.
Hey, George, I'm glad to be here. When it comes to building a website and doing online marketing for your business, you don't need a 4-year degree in marketing, IT, or graphic design to do this, or even to do it well. You don't even need to know how to code or a big budget. All you need are a few basic storytelling tools that humans have used for thousands of years and an internet connection.
Yeah, you can build a great looking website with little effort. There are now a plethora of website providers that are all dedicated to making this really easy for you. There's Squarespace, which we're a big fan of for its simplicity and its ease of use, and because it has easy integrations and flexibility. But there's also Weebly, Wix, Site123, and web.com, which are all pretty tight competitors these days, and a ton of others. So broadly, these services are called drag and drop website builders, and they all have website templates that automatically mobile optimize your website for small screens, because really over half of all internet traffic is now done on a mobile device. So while some of the advanced features and integrations do require coding, many of them don't. And many of them manage your domain and even have a free graphic design and image tools built right into their product. Now, building a great website is easy. All you have to do is step 1, claim your space. Step 2, build something simple. And step 3, effectively communicate your story, the story of your business and the value you provide. So let's begin with claiming your space. Your space is an important part of your presence on the internet, because this is the portal you use to either contribute to all the noise and confusion online or create a well-designed marketing tool that gives clarity and helps you grow and expand your business. Now, the first thing you need to do before claiming your space is to establish your business's story. This is what our last webinar on selling your story was all about. Knowing how you're going to tell the story of your business is the foundation that will color and direct every marketing decision you make for your company, including your website. And the next thing you need to do is register your domain, which usually costs around $20 a year. This is your website address. And nowadays, this is directly integrated into products like Squarespace and others that make it easy to buy, manage, and connect your website to your domain so that people can find you online.
And there are far more than just .com, .org, .net, and things like .edu and other domains that we've all become accustomed to. There's also now common ones like .local, .biz, .service, .info, .blog, .me, .space, .online, and our personal favorite, .ninja, if you are thinking of branding your skills as a piano servicing ninja. And since registering a domain these days is pretty straightforward, we've put some more information about this process in a downloadable guide for this webinar that Nathan is pasting into the chat right now. Now, there are names you've probably heard in here like Squarespace, Wix, Bluehost, GoDaddy, etc.
Yeah, and once you have your domain, the next tool you'll use is an actual website builder. Now, this is usually a drag and drop builder like Squarespace or one of the many other products we mentioned, but they don't require any coding experience. Just choose a domain, a mobile optimized website template, and some free artwork, or upload your own pictures, and then add a few words to tell your story. and you can have an awesome website ready to be published with very little effort.
And George, this always raises the question, when should I hire a pro? Most piano technicians and freelancers can do everything we are talking about themselves, because by the end of this webinar, you will see just how easy it is. But if you don't have time, you have a growing business to tend to, or you meet a few other criteria, then hiring a pro to help design your website is going to be the right move. Now, a marketing professional might be one of the people that you hire. Hiring a marketing pro is something you can do. You are probably already getting calls from these people offering to build you a website for cheap. Some of them are legit, others are slimy, right? These people usually have little coding experience. They're not web developers, but they are design professionals who have a marketing background and who know how to use the various drag and drop products.
And next are web developers. People who have this skill are expensive. They're good at what they do, but this is usually overkill for a freelancer, and it's more appropriate for a company doing more than $1 million in annual revenue who needs something super customized. This is what you would think of maybe 20 years ago when you wanted a website. Now, this also results in not being able to easily edit your pages without going back to your web guy. This is really not needed today with the tools available for small business owners.
The next person you will encounter in this space is an SEO expert, which stands for search engine optimization. These people are really good in this space and are often really expensive because they can get you organically on the first page of Google. You can do a lot of the basic SEO stuff yourself, like making sure your contact information, address, phone number, and other basic information is all in the right places, or even going to search.google.com to see why your website isn't actually showing up. But just like a sudden cold snap or change in the weather will knock all the pianos out of tune you recently did, this is something you have to constantly stay on top of. And if you hire this person, you are going to have to hire them again to keep your website on top each time Google changes something in their algorithm, which happens all the time.
And lastly, in every category, you're going to encounter the scum of the web. You know these people because they keep calling you saying your Google listing is out of date, or they call offering to build you a website, which is usually around $1,500. And then they literally spend 30 to 60 minutes creating a Google listing for your business and giving you a Google website that leaves you less than impressed. Now, they're scum because they prey on people's fears of being left behind by changes in technology. And the truth is, if you feel like the internet is suddenly leaving you behind, you need to address this part of your business. But you don't need to waste more of your money paying someone to waste your time, which is why the team at Gazelle is here to help. We're going to take the rest of this webinar to talk through how to do this yourself and equip you with the knowledge you need to successfully hire this project out if you choose to.
So great. You've decided to do a few simple things yourself, but choosing a domain name is something you want to be intentional about. So ask yourself these questions. Ask, is it easy to say? So if your last name is Wozniak, you probably don't want WozniakPianoTuningServices.com because you are forever going to be also saying, and that is W like walrus, O like ostrich, Z as in the zebra, N like Nancy, IAK piano tuning services, which is plural with an S on the end. Instead, if your name is Wozniak and you service Albany, New York, go with something easy like albanypianotuning.com.
Or bluebirdpiano.com, with a shout out to Coulter Neal, who has the amazing misfortune of having two awesome but difficult names to say and spell. And he overcame those challenges by naming his company after an animal whose name just rolls off your tongue, Bluebird Piano. And the team at Gazelle is tipping our hats to him because, as a safari animal known for outrunning cheetahs, who also helps piano technicians save time, wow your customers, and grow your piano service business, let's just say we completely understand.
The next thing you need, George, is to ask, is it easy to spell? So avoid using plural words and words that have common misspellings. This is one of the downsides to the first brand I created, Barnes Piano Services, where I had a lot of E's and S's I had to repeatedly explain to customers. I was constantly saying that is Barnes with an ES on the end and services, which is plural with an S on the end. And depending on your company name or brand name that you're considering, you may need to find some creative solutions to one of these problems, like purchasing multiple domain names. So no matter how they spell your company name, you can point them to the right website.
Next, ask whether your social accounts are available. These are your Facebook pages, Instagram, Twitter accounts, any other social platform you plan to use. And if you're building a brand, you need to ask whether this brand name is trademarkable, especially if you're going to be scaling and growing this business beyond yourself.
And lastly, did you use your brand words that you created after watching our last webinar? In other words, is this web URL a reflection of you, the value you provide, and the story you are trying to tell? For instance, when we created growwithgazelle.com, part of the reason for this was that gazelle.com wasn't available. So we incorporated our brand identity into the URL because it's an important part of who we are and what we do for our customers. You can do the same in your business if you need to by making your URL part of the value you provide.
All right, let's talk about claiming your email account. Now, most people give as much thought to this as they do what color to paint their actual mailbox, but it's more important than that. So consider doing something memorable like hello@mybusiness.com.
Or make it personal, like first name at mybusiness.com. So long as your name is easy to say and spell. My name is Timothy, but my email address is not tim at mydomain.com because Tim rhymes with Kim, Jim, Ken, Ben, Jen, and a number of other common words. I introduce myself as Timothy on the phone and by email because, first and foremost, it's my preferred name. But secondly, because it's more recognizable, it's easier to spell, I like it more, and I never have to say, and that's T like Timothy, I like igloo, and M like Mary marching much more than her mother's maiden mouse, right? So make your life easy and use something that is easy for you, easy for your customers, and everyone who will ever need to write an email address down on paper.
So other choices are service@mybusiness.com. Just avoid the plural version of services for the same reason we talked about earlier. You'll come to hate that extra S on the end.
And if you are going to use a Gmail account, it isn't as professional, but it can be acceptable if you're very young in your business. Just try to use my business name at gmail.com instead of your personal email account.
Or even a blend of these things like hello.mybusiness@gmail.com. There are a number of ways to be intentional about the email address you choose. The important thing is that it needs to be consistent with the story you're telling about your business and the brand image you're trying to portray. All right, you have a domain and you gave it some thought and you have an email account. Now, this is only about 1 hour of actual work, excluding the trademarks. So if you've done this, then you've done 99% of what matters for the foundation you need to build your website, which brings us to step 2.
Build something simple. Your website needs to be simple, not complex. To see an example of what we are talking about, bookmark demopianoservice.com and check out this website that took us less than a few hours to build using Squarespace. Now, a simple website like this can generate more revenue than a complex one each year. The reason? It is focused, clear, and easy for your customers to do business with you. And it shouldn't take more than a day to create.
So your first step needs to be to pick a day to brew a cup of coffee and end with a website that's simple and follows the framework we're about to outline. Yeah. Anything more is too big of a project and too much scope. Essentially, all you need is your business's story, some book now buttons, and Gazelle. Just reserve a day, and now we're going to show you how exactly how to do this.
The reason why this simple website works is because the internet is a junkyard and clarity sells. All you need is a great story and a call to action, which is a big book now button in the top right hand corner of your website.
And in the world of websites, the top right-hand corner of the page is prime real estate. This is where your primary call to action belongs. If you don't have anything here, or you have a generic contact us instead of a book now button, or you have a poorly worded button like click here, or inconsistent calls to action where sometimes you call it different things on different pages, or worse, you have something else that isn't a call to action at all, then you're losing sales and you're making it hard for your customers to do business with you because people are subconsciously trained to look up to the top right hand corner to take action. So make sure you have a strong call to action on the top of every screen. On our demo piano service website, you'll see that we put our book now button in the header as well as elsewhere on the page. So customers always have a clear and consistent call to action and where to click. So next, you're going to introduce your customer to the story of your business by starting with a character who has a problem and systematically touching on all 7 elements of story that we talked about in our last webinar. So if done well, this will position you as a guide with a plan for how to care for their piano when they click on that book now button. So these are the 7 elements of story that your business needs to touch on to motivate your customers to go from someone who's just browsing to someone who becomes a raving fan of your business.
And you don't have to always tell your story on your website in this order, but it makes more sense to your customers' brains when it's presented in this character problem meets a guide who has a plan and calls them to action, warns them of the risk, and inspires them with the hope of success so they can transform story brand format. And presenting it this way makes it very clear. You are a willing and capable guide with a plan for their success. All they have to do is book now. And because different people will make their decision to book at different points in the presentation of your story, as your customer scrolls down the page, their eye should always see a book now button, either right in front of them or off in their peripheral vision, but not too far. So let's start with a character who has a problem and give your customer a convenient chance to book now if they've made a quick decision. On our demo piano service website, we did this at the very top of the page with "We help gather families around your piano. Book now." Because you shouldn't have to be a concert pianist to enjoy your piano. In other words, this business solves the philosophical problem of people who feel disconnected. What you are saying as a business owner to your customer is that we want to help you solve this problem of disconnection by gathering you and the people you love around your piano. That is the story we are telling for this business. And for some people, that's all they need. They read this and immediately click book now because they think, wow, I'm all in. I don't know what's coming next, but I can tell this is going to be good. I found the company I want to do business with. And this was just the opening line of your story, but they already engaged with your book now button. But for everybody else and most people, they're actually going to continue scrolling down because subconsciously you opened a story loop in their brain. And they're going to read the rest of the story in the order you've presented it because you opened that story loop and their brain is engaged and they're going to continually be asking themselves as they read this story, can I see myself being a customer of this business?
And notice right above our philosophical value proposition, we make it easy for them by telling them exactly what we do and don't do, so they don't have to waste their time. We service acoustic pianos in Westchester County. Now, this is important because right out the gate, we tell them that in this company, we don't work on digital pianos. We don't work in California or Florida or New York City. But here's what we do and where we do it. We service acoustic pianos in Westchester County. Now, on your website, if you service a complex geographical area, you might say something different, like in this metropolitan area or 100 miles around this location. Or if you have a regional company in these 3 cities, you get the idea. Just don't bury this info in an FAQ page. It's important to put an exclusatory statement on here that clearly defines for the customer what you do or don't do so that they don't have to search for it.
Now, it's hard to imagine, but emotionally, many people decide they want to do business with you right here based off how they feel after reading your philosophical problem and that your business is solving. And so right at the top of the page, they've already decided they want to do business with you. At this point in time, as they are emotionally reaching for that book now button, the amygdala part of their brain wakes up and goes, hold on, danger, right? We don't get married on the first date. That is not who we are as a person. Let's slow things down a little bit and let's logically do a little more research. So, how about you just keep scrolling down to make sure we really, really like this company and that they do what we need before we click that button? And remember, you're telling a story with your website. So the next thing you're going to talk about is how you are a guide for people who want a better piano and how you have a really easy plan to help them get there.
Now, on your website, you're assumed to be the guide because this is your company. So you don't need to overtly state that. Just give them your plan. Step 1, choose your service. Step 2, ask your questions. Step 3, enjoy your piano. 3 very easy steps any customer can take today, all with one unified and very clear call to action. Because this is the 4th element of story that you need to incorporate into your website, a clear call to action. Notice how we've simultaneously taught the customer something. Here's how our website works. We give you info, then ask if you want to book now. If not, we give some more info and then ask again. And if you're not ready to book, then here's our plan for giving you a better piano. Here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. And if that sounds good, you're ready, you can book now. And at this point, their brain relaxes a bit because it's figured out the pattern. It knows that if I keep scrolling, I'm going to get more info and more opportunities to take this very simple and clear call to action to book an appointment. And as soon as I'm ready, it's going to be there because all the buttons on this page are unified and say the same thing, book now. So now we're moving on to the 5th element of story you need to touch on in your website, the risk of failure. So this is the risk of them walking away from your awesome company and choosing not to service their piano. This is the risk of choosing to do nothing. The risk we propose on our demo piano service website: don't go through life thinking you can't play well. Book now. Notice we didn't talk about the risk of using a competitor. We just said this is the risk of not doing anything. And their brain goes, oh, right. I was thinking about the risk, but yeah, that's true. And it naturally scrolls on, looking for a conclusion to the story that it's engaged with.
So next, you quickly tell them the 6th and 7th elements of story, which are the hope of success and promise of transformation if they use your company and trust you to follow your plan for caring for their piano. And yep, there's another book now button because their brain is now expecting it and is actually about to click the button. On our demo piano service website, we presented this by saying, being a successful pianist is all about discovering music that enhances your life. That is our success statement, followed by our transformation statement. When your piano is working at its best, you can easily go from someone who doesn't know how to play to somebody who does. And this will transform your life and your family's definition of fun. Now, on your own website, you are going to have your own words and your own transformation statement, but you get the idea. It's just a statement about what success looks like for your customers and what kind of transformation they can expect in their life by choosing to do business with you. And if you want to hint about your prices on this page, put a short statement just above your final book now button about your most popular service package price, which tells them, hey, on the other side of this book now button are specific prices for specific services, but they have to hit the book now button to see all your prices. Then set your Gazelle scheduler up to display your prices to your customers while they are self scheduling. And just like that, we solve all their pricing questions on this first page of your website by showing them where to find the info.
Let's pause for a moment. You've covered all 7 elements of story on the home page of your website. And if you build your website in this way, it takes less than 10 seconds for their brain to scan everything, process that information, and decide whether they want to do business with you. This is why a website like this will outperform the site you currently have. Now, at this point, if this customer hasn't decided to book, they know you're a guide, but they're probably asking whether you are their guide. So they're going to double back and ask another question, which is why you need to wrap everything up with social proof or online reviews there at the bottom of the page. So provide the text from a few positive 5-star reviews that you've received from satisfied customers. Like a final, hey, if you're still asking whether you want to book now, here are some real reviews from real people who can affirm just how awesome my company is, along with a final opportunity to book now.
Their brain now has all the information it needs to make a decision. And it is now recounting and packaging all of this information and saying to them internally, you like this company. They answered all your basic questions. You trust them. You need the type of services they provide. They have a plan for taking care of your piano. It's going to sound great because they had positive reviews. They even told you the risk of not using them. So I'm a little concerned that if we go somewhere else, we will become the person who doesn't play our piano because it isn't in great shape. And doing this is going to help you discover more music. What are you waiting for? It's right there. It's actually been in front of you this whole time. You wanted to click that button a mile ago up at the top of the page. Let's do this. And boom, they click to reserve their appointment. You have successfully taken them out of the piano technician search phase, and they didn't even need to be on your website for longer than 10 seconds. Now, there's one more thing we need to talk about here because keep in mind, we're just talking about a one-page homepage of your website right now, and it is the footer of your website, or what Don Miller in StoryBrain calls the junk drawer. This is where you put all the other important but secondary info, like your address, phone number, privacy policy, social links, and anything else that is secondary to the 7 elements of story and secondary to having a strong unified call to action needed on the web page up above. If you think back, we had one call to action: book now, book now, book now. We didn't confuse them with book now or call us, book now or email us, book now or check this out over here, book now or check all this nice piano stuff out on the website over here, book now. Oh, here's a cute picture. It's just here's the 7 elements of story and book now. Everything else is secondary. And we're going to put that down to the junk drawer on the footer, right? So keep in mind that this is essentially how you build a one-page website in one day that is focused on selling your company, not a specific product or service that you provide.
Yes. So, welcome to the first evolution of your simple and powerful website, going from nothing to something, a powerful and super simple 1-page website that is effective at getting people to do one thing: book their appointment. And it's good at doing this because it's consistent throughout with the same easy to unified call to action: book now, book now, book now. That makes it super easy to take this call to action as soon as the decision's been made. And if you're wondering whether a website like this can outperform the website you currently have, here's a challenge. Just hide your existing website for a week or two and monitor the response you get from new customers trying to book an appointment using this new website format.
This one-page website shouldn't take you more than one day to create and can probably carry your company to over $100,000 in revenue, especially if you already applied the last webinar on selling your story. You already have your character, problem, plan, and transformation statement that you created to tell the story about your business. All you're doing now is adding pictures to the words you already have in place. Using Gazelle to book your appointments online, and then showing up for your appointments and then taking the checks to the bank.
As you grow, you'll eventually encounter a second evolution of your website, which is to take it from a one-page site and give it some depth. Now, this will add a few menu options and probably another 3 to 4 hours of work. So it isn't that much to do. All we're going to do is add 3 strategically simple menu options: history, services, and contact. Now, your history is simple. It's just one paragraph bio along with your certifications and another Book Now button and some more social proof from some other satisfied customers. These both add to your qualifications as their guide. And on our Demo Piano Service website, you'll notice that this is super simple and uncluttered by design.
Yeah, and George, you'll also notice that this is like no more than 2, maybe 3 sentences.
Mhm.
That's all it is. We're not talking about paragraphs of history here. We're basically just saying, hey, here's the journey I went on. I'm a qualified guide, book now, right? If you have certifications, this is where you put them. Hey, I'm a registered piano technician. I've been that way for 25 years. I'm a qualified guide, book now.
Yeah.
Now, the services menu page is just a brief list, and I'm going to highlight brief list. Okay. This does not need to be an exhaustive list of everything you could possibly do. This is just like your top 8 out of 10 most common services that you provide and prices. So keep in mind on that home page, that one page website, that was not a page focused on selling a service. That was a page focused on selling your company. So now the services page is a page that's all about selling specific services. So if you're displaying prices, you'll have a service and a price and a book now button. Now, on some more, and we're also going to add in some more social proof at the bottom of the service because we're keeping consistent with this whole thing that on the home page, we had some information, a book now button, followed by social proof, and then a footer and a junk drawer. And on each of these pages, we have information, a book now button, plus one more online review from another satisfied customer. So again, you're offering them a deeper understanding of your plan via some of these secondary services you might offer. That's all you really need. And just remember what Don Miller says over and over again: confuse, you lose. So keep it simple and uncluttered with as little info as you need to keep it focused on your unified call to action. On our demo piano service website, you'll see that we kept this page super simple and uncluttered, just like the other pages, because they already decided to do business with you based off of your main site. You're not trying to convince them to do business with you here. They are only on this page to do secondary research and to make sure you provide XYZ service before they click the book now button. Or they might be here because they suspect they need something you might not provide.
And your contact info page is the same. Just basic contact info, a book now button, and some more social proof. That way, no matter what page they're on, they have multiple options to book, opportunity to read some form of social proof, and they're hearing from satisfied customers. Your contact page is just another call to action. So on our demo piano service page, it's again super simple and uncluttered. Note, having this as a separate page is also going to help your boost your search engine optimization, your SEO. If you don't have this page in your menu, you definitely need this info in the footer on your site. But once you have a dedicated page for this, it can be optimized for better SEO. And on this page, you can keep it consistent by adding a book now button and some more social proof. That's really all you need.
Yeah, and George, real quick, this is the second evolution of your website. So if
Right,
all you did today was you said, I have one day to create that one page website and your contact info was in the footer of that page,
right.
that will suffice for SEO. It's not the best SEO, but it's sufficient SEO. You have your address, your phone number, your privacy policy, all those things in there that SEO wants. You're just kind of checking the boxes. The important thing is it's not on the main part of your site, it's down in the footer. But once you do this separate contact us page, it's a lot easier to really hone in the SEO on this specific page for your local business. And note that on the demo piano service site, we also have a fourth menu option called schedule. This is there because in some Squarespace templates and in some templates that you'll use with these other providers, the header button, that big book now button that we put up in the header in the top right hand corner, gets dropped on small screens. Or aesthetically, on some screens, the menu just looks unbalanced with three options. There might be two on one side of your logo and one on the other, and you kind of want to balance it out. If this is the case, you just add a fourth menu option called schedule to balance things out. This page is all it says is, hey, if you missed our other book now buttons, just click here, book now. And if you choose a template that doesn't allow you to put a book now button in the header, which some of these other providers have templates like that where you can't get that button in the header, that's where it's really important to have this fourth menu option that's going to be on that right hand top part of the website. It's really important to have that there because it kind of serves as that call to action area that they're going to go up to that area, see schedule, they're going to click there and then get to the book now button that way. So at least at the top right hand corner of the page, you have some kind of action called schedule or book now as a menu option. And let's just pan back for a minute. We're talking about a website here that is simple. This is 4 pages. One page that took you less than a day to build, and 3 other pages that took you less than 4 hours to build. Your story is what makes this powerful. And what we want to pause here and let to really soak in is this: you really don't need more than a few hours to create everything we have talked about so far. And this can be enough. But as your business grows, eventually you start offering a variety of other services, and your website needs to evolve.
Yeah. This is when the idea of bucketing comes in. So essentially, behind door number 1, door number 2, and door number 3 is all the same thing. A super simple, clean, one-page website telling a story about how a specific type of product you provide solves the specific problem in their life with lots of book now buttons. But bucketing is something you'll do on your main page when your site is marketing more than one type of service. So, for instance, if you're selling more than just in home services, perhaps you have a shop and also sell rebuilding services, or you subcontract a moving company, and you also offer piano moving services. This is where the idea of bucketing comes into play.
Yeah, George, bucketing is essentially perceived customization as well, right? So you don't have to just bucket according to different types of services you offer, right? You could actually bucket one service called tuning and seasonal service. That's one type of service, right? You're not going to tune a piano differently because it's a beginner student versus a piano teacher. If not, if you're qualified and you actually care about your work, you're going to do the best job you can on both. But when you're marketing these services, behind this bucket or this door called tuning a seasonal service, you can actually further bucket your options in a way that feels customized and caters to a specific service for a specific type of customer. So instead of just tuning a seasonal service, you say something like tuning a seasonal service for this type of customer as its own web page. And behind that bucket is a simple, super clean one-page website that follows the outline of the story, the 7 elements of the story we talked about before. It could be tuning a seasonal service for piano students, tuning a seasonal service for piano teachers, or for churches and businesses or institutions, etc. And behind each of these custom buckets, you just literally have the same words. But instead of saying, tuning a seasonal service for the general customer, you say, in your students bucket, we offer this tuning a seasonal service for piano students. And then you customize the words a little bit in the pictures to show students instead of piano teachers. And for your piano teacher bucket, that's perceived customization. It's just, we offer tuning a seasonal service for piano teachers. And then you customize the words a little bit in the pictures to be more specific to the needs of piano teachers. And you can even have a different price for these because people who are students will not go into the piano teacher bucket and people who are churches will not go into the teachers bucket. It's the same info behind this. So if you're going to subdivide this even further, literally you're just going to have 3, 4, 5, or 6 of the same tuning a seasonal service pages with the 7 elements of story, just slightly customized for that specific customer group's motivations. And when I did this in my own business, I was really worried. I charged less for teachers than I did for students and a different rate for churches. It was the same service. It was a 2 hour service that's great for this type of customer. That's what I promised. I was really worried people were going to cross pollinate into different buckets. They didn't. Right. And all of a sudden, I started getting more inquiry calls from churches and piano teachers simply because I had a tuning and seasonal service option specifically selling to them.
It's awesome, Tim, because bucketing adapts your story to multiple audiences, no matter where they go on your site, especially if you're bucketing your services. Inside each bucket is that simple one-page website for that specific service or topic, just like Tim just described. So regardless of whether you bucket or not, you need to stick to this framework of simplicity, because no matter what stage of evolution your website's in, it's going to fall into one of four categories. And the first category of website is one that we've all struggled with, the complex and ineffective one. To be honest, this is the most common type of website we see from new users coming to Gazelle. It uses a lot of unnecessary words that aren't all working towards a singular call to action. Now, you've added to the noise of the internet. Your potential customers can't easily find what they need. They get lost, we get lost, and you become your own worst enemy.
And George, this was my business's website for the first 13 years of my business. And don't get me wrong, I was actually proud of it because it was the best website I knew how to build at the time. But the truth was, I made it too complex. And only much later in my career did I come to understand why it was so ineffective. Now, the next type of website you find is definitely simple, but it's too simple. And as a result, it's ineffective. It falls short of getting you the business you need because it doesn't incorporate these seven elements of story or have clear unified calls to action. It's full of attractive pages that simply don't motivate your customers to book.
And the next category of website is a myth, complex and powerful. So the idea of having a complex and powerful website, it just doesn't work. And it doesn't work for one reason. It's not easy for your customer to do business with you. There are too many words, too many different calls to action, or none at all. Story is all over the place. It's all about you, your certifications, your achievements, and the customer never transforms from someone who's shopping to someone who wants to do business with you, which means a lot of people might go to your site and then quickly bounce. And consequently, your SEO suffers because your bounce rates are too high.
But simple and powerful is where you want to be. Because when you're here, it means it's easy for people to do business with you. Having a simple, powerful website is about using these seven elements of story to reduce content on your site. Having a simple and powerful website is about creating unified and clear calls to action. Book now, book now, book now. Every call to action on your site is the same thing, no matter what page you're on. Having a simple and powerful website clears the path for your new and returning clients to easily see themselves benefiting from your services and easily motivates them to click that book now call to action. Right? They can see themselves in your story. That's why it works. They can hear your calls to action and they're easy to find on every page. And they book with you instead of the next guy. Simple and powerful websites are effective because they are intentionally focused.
But also keep in mind, as your website evolves, that simple and powerful can at times be time consuming to create. So at some point, you're going to realize that you're swimming in the deep end and that you need someone to help you navigate. And this is where you need to hire a professional. But if you don't know what you're doing, what you're aiming for, or what success looks like, you might hire the wrong professional and waste your time and their time and a ton of money building a great looking, but very complex and ineffective website. So instead, knowing how to use the elements of story to build a simple and powerful website makes it even easier to hire the right professional, tell them what you need, and more quickly arrive at your desired outcome. Which brings us to step three. You're now able to effectively communicate your story. The internet is not magic. The internet is not magic. It is basic human behavior. And people don't like feeling stressed when searching for a service provider. So make it easy for them to do business with you.
A great website is going to impact every area of your business. For instance, if you properly bucket your services, you can more effectively get customers to choose the right service when they are self scheduling their appointment. And you no longer spend time worrying about what services you should or shouldn't allow for self scheduling.
You can also more effectively and confidently display your prices on your website, even if you are the price leader in your area, because people are booking with you because they identified with your story and believe you're the right fit for their needs, not because you charge the lowest price.
A great website also saves you office time. A website with book now buttons connected to Gazelle self scheduling saves you so much time. All you have to do is just put up the website, follow the 7 elements of story, connect your book now buttons, and then show up for your appointment. As more and more of your customers book online and more new customers book online and choose the appropriate service, you spend less and less time fielding general questions from your customers.
And a great website is easier to manage because you have fewer pages, fewer words, fewer potential for typos, and you don't need to keep messing with it because it works better than anything you've ever had. If you feel the need to tweak your website, it means you don't believe it's going to work. You're not confident. But if you do this, you can become so confident it's working, you no longer feel the need to muck with it.
A great website is also a magnet for new opportunities. It gets people to tell you their needs and opens up new products and services your customers are asking for because they call you and say things like, I really wanted to do business with you, but I didn't see the service listed on your website I'm looking for. So I just wanted to make sure you don't offer XYZ service before I go to somebody else.
And a great website pushes edge cases to the edge and allows you to focus on your core services. It becomes much easier to confidently direct people to your website to find answers to common questions. And a great website helps people see themselves as your customer. It makes them want to do business with you because they can identify themselves in your company story and see themselves reflected there, which means your website converts more customers. It stands out. It flows better, speaks to their problem, answers their question, calls them to action, guides them to success, and builds deeper repeat relationships. Don't let your website be a black hole in your business that sucks all your resources, your money, your time, and never gives you the return on investment you're looking for. You can effectively communicate your story through any website platform that efficiently converts new customers and grows your business. So start here. Reserve your domain today. This only takes a few minutes and some intentionality. Then build your website tomorrow or later this week. This is your super easy one-page website that'll outperform your complex and ineffective website that you have right now. And then let your website become a powerful marketing tool. With a great website, your skills and reputation are the differentiator for your business because you go from someone who's frustrated that your skills are hidden behind a poor website to somebody who's confident and known as a skilled piano technician who solves your clients' problems. While we transition to the Q&A and our team sorts through questions, here's a quick poll and a list of upcoming webinars that are coming soon. Here at Gazelle, we focus on technicians that are frustrated by inefficient scheduling of appointments, struggling to keep up with sending out estimates and invoices on time, and lacking enough monthly revenue to consistently be profitable. We feel that. And if any of those resonate for you, let us know through this poll so how we can serve you better. You can also visit growwithgazelle.com//school to listen to previous webinars and to sign up for next month's webinar on finding and retaining new customers. Yeah. We're going to be covering every topic you can imagine related to building and running a piano service business. And the team at Gazelle is excited to help you find the tools you need to save your time and wow your customers so you can focus on growing your business and doing what you enjoy most.
Thank you, Tim and George. That was excellent. We have had a number of questions roll in throughout this, so why don't we just kind of dive right in, if you don't mind. All right, so we even had questions emailed in before the webinar began. So we'll start with those. Early bird gets the worm. Should I have prices on my website? Right now, I do not.
I'll jump in with a solid maybe. Um, so there is a valid use case to both, and I'm going to kind of give you my logic. And I've actually done both, so I'll give you a little bit of my experience, and then George, you can jump in. The reason I say maybe is it really depends on the story you're telling and where you put those prices in that story. So if you are doing what we show you in that demo piano service website, you'll notice that we covered all 7 elements of story, all the way down to the transformation. We got their emotional buy-in before we even mentioned price. Okay. And on that page, we were keenly aware that what we were selling was not a specific service. We were selling the company. We were selling your business on that one-page website. So it would be inappropriate on that one-page website to list out all your service prices because it throws the customer for a loop. They're like, wait a minute, I was in tune with this like very clear story being told, and then they told me 7 different stories out of context. So that would be an inappropriate way to do the website. That's why on the demo site, we just had that one little like our average or most popular service is in this ballpark range, right? And then we put the specific prices on the Gazelle scheduling so that they were already into the booking workflow before they would actually see the individual prices for the individual services. So if you are selling the business, put the average price for all services in there. If you then go to the bucketing concept, and where we bucketed to a specific service, right? If you're going to bucket to a repair service and you have an hourly repair rate, absolutely at the bottom of the 7 elements of story, put the price there. It's going to be very effective because they're not going to be deterred by the price at the bottom of the page. And they're going to be continually reading, looking for that and looking for that. It draws them into the story. So price goes at the bottom of the page if it is dedicated to a singular service. And also if you're bucketing and then sub-bucketing for the customer type, right? Tuning for piano students, tuning for piano teachers. That's a great place to put the price. If you have a discounted price for piano teachers or a discounted price for new customers, tuning for new customers could be a bucket, right? Whatever it is, that would be an appropriate place to put the bucket or to put the price. And then the last big idea I'll leave you with before I tell you my experience with this is the idea that if you are going to put the price on the website and you think about it, take away the fear that they're not going to book with you because of the price. They've emotionally bought in, then they went logically through the 7 elements of story, and now they have the price and they see the social proof. What else do they need? Nothing. They are fully ready to book now. And so having the price there prevents them from them thinking, well, I would love to book with them, but I'm going to email them and ask what the price is before I hit that button. And then I'm going to go continue researching over here a couple other companies. So if you're very effective with the 7 elements of story, not having the price can deter you or deter your customers. It throws a barrier in front of them. And there's always this concept that if you open up a menu at a restaurant and there's no prices, you probably can't afford it. Right. And that's always in the back of people's heads. And they're like, that was a great website, but they didn't put prices. I probably can't afford it. Right. And then they're going to continue shopping elsewhere. Now, my experience was I had prices on my website and took prices off the website. And it made no difference in the world when I had an ineffective website. Because I always thought like, oh, I should put prices on or I shouldn't put prices on. It'll make a difference. It didn't make a difference. The problem wasn't the prices. It was the fact that I had an ineffective website. And it was frustrating as all get out because I put prices on there and it just changed the interaction I had with customers, but it didn't increase or decrease the number of people actually choosing to follow through and book. However, when I went to this format with my website and started hitting on all 7 elements of story, it also didn't matter. I just started booking more and more and more and more and more and more. It was just book, book. And I had another problem. People would see that philosophical problem at the top, and some people would book now. And I didn't have prices. I did have prices at the bottom of the webpage, so I didn't put them on my Gazelle scheduler because I didn't need to be redundant. And then they would book and then say, oh, well, how much is this going to be? I really want to book with you, but how much? Oh, okay, that's good. And then they move on. Right. And so, but I did have the prices at the bottom of the page. People just would decide to book long before they got to the bottom of the page. It wasn't everybody, but occasionally it would happen. So, but again, it was not the price. That was not the problem. The problem was the efficiency of how I told the story. So that's the long answer, George.
I think you covered it.
All right. So another question that was emailed in before the webinar. I suspect I know how you'll answer this, but many technicians, including me, have a lot of piano information on their sites. This takes up space, and I'm not sure that it leads to more income. However, clients have often commented that they appreciate it. What's your opinion of this?
Your gut reaction's absolutely correct. Your customers are not correct. They're not deciding to book because you have cute piano pictures and information about how piano works. That information belongs in the junk drawer. George?
Oh, that is 100% right. And I would say that what happens then is your information about pianos that you've put on there, you've overemphasized your role as guide, and you've made one element of the story bigger than any of the others. And so they can only comment on the one thing they can see, which is you clearly are an excellent guide, right? I went with you because clearly you blinded me with your guidedness. So, so as you tone down that, you'll let the customer shine. And I think you'll find you'll have less people commenting on how they appreciated the information because it's no longer there, but you'll get more customers because they're getting they're getting the full picture of story, not just one element.
Yeah, George, that reminded me when I first made the big change in my business from a complicated, ineffective website to this very, very simple website, I was terrified it wasn't going to work. And I took 80% of the content off. I was that person. Okay. I had the pictures, I had information about I had everything on there, and it was confusing as all get out. And no call to actions, or not clear call to actions, and confused call to action. I had so much stuff. I got rid of 80%. So when you delete 80% of the content on your website, there is a moment where you're like, delete. And I was terrified that it wasn't going to work. But people started telling me, man, you changed your website. And man, that's a great website. They went from saying like, oh, it was a nice website and I enjoyed having that overemphasis on guide, which is exactly what was happening, to they started telling me, you have a phenomenal website. And I chose to book with you because it gave me everything I needed to know. And I'm sitting there looking at them going, I deleted 80% of the stuff. And so I just smiled and I said, thank you. And it took me a while to realize the reason they felt like I had more helpful information was because I helped them identify themselves as a customer in my company long before I ever showed up. And I answered all the questions they had, not the stuff that I thought was important. And that was really critical. And I think that was one of the reasons this worked so well.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question. When you service a large area, 75-mile radius in my case, what's the best way to adequately explain trip charges and mileage? Should prices and fees be on the website?
Great question. I'm going to, I need to think about this, George, but I'm going to say bucketing would be one possible way that you could do this. So you're going to bucket based off a location. There's a couple of ways. Do you have something right off the bat, George, or do you want me to spitball off the cuff here?
No, honestly, the thing I'm thinking about is this is something we touch on briefly in some of our previous webinars, things like pricing and things like that. And what I would say is looking at ways to simplify your business model if at all possible. But that's not getting into the website question, it's getting into a different conversation altogether. But since with what you have right now, I would say again, your trip charges and your mileage are part of your plan, right? You're a guide with a plan. Again, you don't want to overemphasize those things, but there are ways that if you can get them, again, your website right now is about marketing your business, not marketing your trip charges. So finding a way to either if you're using the self-scheduler, putting it in that way. Tim, I'll let you.
Yeah, so I'm thinking through a couple of things here. I don't know who asked that question, but it is a complex question. The idea of putting trip charges on your website is not complex. What's complex is how you execute it.
Mhm.
And so if I always go to the framework of make it easy for customers to do business with you. So let's start there. Is it easy for customers to do business with you if you have a bazillion different charges based off of where they're located as a function of from your house? No, it's not. It's confusing, actually. And so right out the gate, my gut level business entrepreneur in me says, get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Do not do trip charges. Charge enough and shrink the service area. And if you absolutely need those other areas, bucket it or have a different website or a different business in that area, or grow your business and hire a technician in that area. Like, it's too complex for your customers for you to have this really confusing pricing model. Why are you doing it? That's my gut level response. The logical side of me says, I actually completely understand why people do this. I've thought about doing this, and a lot of people successfully do it, and there's a valid use case. And in that case, I would say you have got to make your trip charges absolutely easy for a 5-year-old to understand. And if it is not that easy, then you need to do work there. Make it easier for people to understand your trip charges. And secondly, the trip charge should be inconsequential to why they choose to book with you. They need to choose to book with your company because you cover the 7 elements of story, because you're a kick-ass technician, because of every reason, not your trip charge. The trip charge does need to be communicated. And sometimes it can just be communicated on the Gazelle booking page where it's like, here's our price.
Yeah.
Some trip charges apply for extended area customers, or I don't shrink the words there. It's too many words. But, here's our price. This is a price for everybody, regardless of where you live. Asterisk, some trip charges apply plus taxes, right? That kind of an idea. And then they go on to your self-scheduling page. There's the price for your basic service is X. That's what they expect. And then there's a group called trip charge. And then it's categorized by location. And then there's just a reasonable trip charge for each location. That could work as well. But what you feel me tripping over here is this idea that I feel like I'm having to solve a problem that shouldn't exist as a business owner, because there's a better way to solve it. And the better way to solve it is to hire a technician in those areas. The better way to solve it is to not do it. The better way to solve it is to shrink your service area and charge a higher rate per service and just be booked in your area. And so if you're going to insist on going those out that far, you're going to insist on a trip charge, then at least make it so easy for your customers a 5-year-old could understand it.
Can I add something real quick? We had somebody just drop a note in, and I thought it was a really good idea too. The note was you could always build your mileage directly into your base rates.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
I
And
think
bucket
that's
it.
what I'm saying. Yeah, and bucket it. When I say like charge one rate and shrink your service area, what you just mentioned, Nathan's the opposite of it. It's charge a higher rate for everything. You're gonna make a lot more money when you're a mile down the way, and people are gonna book with you because they want you because you have an awesome company, and you're gonna make enough money when you're in these other areas. That is a totally valid use case, and I would go there. My first reaction would be get rid of them. My second reaction would be that. My third one would be the shenanigans I was tripping over earlier. So
Great.
great
Okay.
question.
Yep. All right. So the next question, is there wisdom in making sure the word piano is in your web address, in your domain?
Yes. It's really, really just as simple as you're a piano service company. Absolutely make sure the word piano's in there, because it's going to be really weird if I'm a piano technician, go to timbarnes.com. All right, that's not a brand, that's a person. So you just confused me out the gate. Wait a minute, so does Tim Barnes do other things? Tim Barnes Piano makes sense. Barnes Piano makes sense. Whatever your branded business name, piano makes sense. But why your name? Like, what else are you doing? Are you doing magic tricks on the side? Do you show up and do birthday parties as well? Do you teach piano? Is this a piano studio? Like, what's going on? I'm confused as a customer, and I haven't even gone to the website. That's not a good thing. So, yeah, absolutely. Put the word piano in your domain. I'm not going to say 100% of the time that's the case, but probably 99. George, can you think of a situation off the top of
Totally.
your head
I'll
where
flip the coin and say no. and just say honestly, your website, your web domain is the very beginning. It's the title of the book.
yeah,
The rest of the website is the content of the book.
yeah,
So as long as you've made it through that search engine and you've shown up as a piano service provider and you've got those Google ratings and you've got your one-page website, I think about the number of different places that I buy things from, that don't necessarily tell me what. This is coming from growwithgazelle.com. So,
yeah. Exactly. I'm a piano service company. What are we doing with gazelles? Don't judge a book by its cover comes to mind. But also, if you have a really great book with a really horrible title,
right on.
that's what you're doing. If you don't have the word piano in there, you're going to have to overcome that obstacle in order to really get the great Google reviews, because then you're going to be, let's just assume you got great SEO and you're on the first page and they see your URL is nothing related to pianos and somebody else is. Immediately they're going to gravitate to the other person that was related to what they need or what they felt they need. But if people happen to land on the site and it was all good, it might not make a difference. But yeah, put the word piano in your URL. There you go. Let's settle on that.
Okay, so the next question, this is a really good one. So we serve a large geographic area and are worried about letting new customers schedule themselves. Without knowing anything about them and their piano's needs, how can Gazelle schedule them to minimize travel and deal with time constraints like the piano needs, piano needs a pitch raise? Yeah, you guys want to
Yep.
discuss that?
Yeah. So go ahead, Tim. I'll let you start, and I've got something I'm going to add at the end.
Oh, okay. I'm going to start by asking the question, why is your service area so large? Answer that question as a business, because your business could be easier to run if you shrunk the service area and focused it. You're probably spreading yourself too thin. But if you're going to insist on having a very large service area, you solve that problem. I heard two different problems. Problem one, how do we get customers to pick the right services? You bucket them. You have a bucketed service called tuning for new customers. That's how you solve that problem. And that service has extra time allotted for the unknowns. The other thing you do is you use the website purely just as a take them out of the marketplace. This is a new customer who doesn't understand their piano, doesn't understand their needs. They're shopping around, they're calling a lot of people. You just want to get them out of the marketplace. And when they reserve their appointment with you and they click that book now button, you win. And now you can pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I'm sorry, I saw that you picked the wrong service based off of what I think I see. You're a guide. Like it's like they picked you because they thought you'd be a good guide. They picked the wrong service, and now you're calling them out on it and saying, hey, don't worry about it. I'm a great guide. So good. I saw you picked the wrong service. Can I help you get a better service? And now we're going to get you into the having the right service, the right time allocation, so we can serve you better when our technician arrives. That's the first problem I heard. The second problem I heard was simply a scheduling algorithm and scheduling settings, right? How do we get this to do? And that's a whole different conversation. But as a general rule, what we've learned is that if your service area is X, you need to allow your customers to book somewhere around 1/3 to 1/2 of that area as a maximum drive time to get enough options so that Gazelle finds things and gets people in the right area. Otherwise, if you get too strict, they don't get anything. And if you get too broad, you ping pong all over the place. And the sweet spot is between 1/3 and 1/2 of your service area is a maximum drive time for customers. And then as customers book, it fills in on that day. And then you can use the call center to fill in holes. But that's a whole separate efficiency of how do you keep holes in your schedule filled question. That's not necessarily a website question. It doesn't belong on the website.
I'll jump in, Tim, as well. One more thing I want to add to that. I think what I heard as well was this: how can Gazelle specifically schedule them to minimize travel um, and deal with time constraints? And just one thing I want to say is two things here, actually. One is that, as Tim mentioned, the algorithm, the way that Gazelle is set up, it is set up to find, they give options to allow yourself to self-schedule that will optimize travel time by your settings.
Yeah.
And one of the things I just wanted to toss out is specifically, I would love to show that to you. So if you wanted to set up a demo, we actually now offer demos, live demos. So if you're looking at how to make that work, that's something we can show you more in depth.
Yeah. And I think that's more a one-on-one thing
Yeah.
where we can easily show that.
And
Yeah.
you can book a demo by going to growwithgazelle.com, and right there on the called the call to action on the top page
There
is
you
book
go.
a demo. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
all right. So we've had several questions roll in also about search engines. So
Yeah.
kind of grouping these together. So the first question is, how can I get my website to show up on Google?
Yeah. Well, search engine optimization is how you get your website to show up on Google. You have to play Google's game. And that some of this is just really, it's a checklist. It's stuff. I mean, so search engine optimization as a task is simple. If you have a page dedicated to selling piano tuning, is the word piano tuning in the header of the page? Is the search engine crawlers part the title? There's a separate title they use behind the scenes. There's a title that they show the customer and a title they use. Does that say tuning? And did you appropriately balance the words on the page to talk about piano tuning in a way that was natural and organic? This is what SEO experts do. They read the content on the page and recommend adding a couple of words here and a couple of words there. And, obviously you don't want to abuse it and say they'll punish you if you do something like, piano tuning is great, piano tuning this, piano tuning that, piano tuning that, to try. That doesn't work. They punish you for that. They don't, because it wasn't organic. But it's really, really simple stuff like, is your address on your webpage? Is your phone number on the webpage? Do you have a verified Google listing? Do you have online reviews? Do you have a web page? It can be a hidden web page, not even public, dedicated to this location. And if you service like I think Atlanta, there's Atlanta, and then there's all these communities around Atlanta. There's 100,000 different cities, right? And if you did most of your business, like 30% of your business in Alpharetta, right, you could actually have a hidden page on the website called Alpharetta Piano Tuning Services through my company, where you use SEO that page. Your customers never see this page unless they Google Alpharetta Piano Tuning, right? Something like that. So SEO as a general rule, if you're asking that question, you probably need to consider hiring an expert to look at your website, or you're violating some of the very basic tenets of SEO, like is the page title right? Is the address right? Is your phone number active? Is it registered with Google? And then you can also register your site with Google to be crawled and things like that. And so there's just some really basic, easy stuff. But there's like a checklist of 100 different things you can do, and like the top 10 are the most important. And every time Google changes the algorithm, you have to go rejig things and make sure that the pages you worked on are still relevant. I had the misfortune once of accidentally hiding my business page for a specific city. And I went from page 1 on Google to page 0. I was like on page 100. It was ridiculous. And it was like, whoa, what happened? And I realized I accidentally hit that page. And as soon as I reactivated that page, Google was relying on the information on this hidden page to optimize me onto page one. And so it's just real simple stuff like that. But forget SEO, get a bunch of online reviews. Go watch our
Yes.
webinar on that.
That's exactly what I was going to just
Yeah,
plug.
yeah, absolutely. Get online reviews. And I'll tell you the other problem I had. You can always run paid ads. Google loves when you pay them to get on page one. But I wasted a lot of money here because I took paid ads and I sent them to an ineffective website. And it was just like flushing money down the toilet. On the flip side, when I did this big change that we just outlined in this webinar, I expected to then go take paid ads and send them to a quality website that was working and get more of my money's worth. Except I immediately started getting so many more bookings, I couldn't afford to waste money on paid ads because I had no openings. And so I never actually got the chance to test that out because the website just booked. And it worked. It did its job. But that was a combination of the online reviews, the page one on Google, and getting the website together the way that we talked about.
Sorry, make sure I'm unmuted there. So if it's okay, I'll add one real quick technical thing that you can do. So if you go to search.google.com, that is the Google Search Console, and you can register your domain there. And they have all kinds of tools to help you,
Yeah.
including they'll show you the results of where they crawl your site, any problems they ran into. Like they'll even tell you your font is too small. So search.google.com. That's probably the first place. Be your friend. Okay, so a second follow-up to that is can I hire someone reputable for just SEO improvement, as I know this is pretty much a continual process?
Yes. Yeah, there are people that focus their entire career on SEO. And you want to, well, find somebody inside your budget. And the one thing that I will caveat here, do not do this until you have the 7 elements of story on your website. Okay, SEO people are not marketers. They're search engine optimizers. And I talked to SEO people when I had an ineffective website and I wasn't hitting the 7 elements of story. None of them told me, oh, well, your problem is that you're not giving them a clear plan and a call to action that's unified across the thing with the risk and the success and the transformation. They were just like, oh, this is a piano tuning website. Let's actually do all the work to get the piano tuning stuff on the piano tuning searches. But then I would get on page one and people would go to the site and then they wouldn't book. It did me no good to have great SEO and then send them to a website that didn't cover the basics of marketing, which is the elements of story in a way that engaged the customer. So I would say spend time doing that first. Do what we taught in the webinar, then take that website and give it to an SEO person and say, now I need this website or this domain to be on page one. And maybe you do it through a bunch of hidden pages because now what the SEO guy wants you to do is going to be detrimental to getting people to book. Right. Those two things exist. SEO people and marketers are constantly in a tug of war because what SEO does is not always best for getting people to actually choose emotionally to click the book now button.
Okay, so the next question that rolled in, do I need to put a photo of myself on my website?
No.
I would.
You don't need to.
No. Yes, correct. Go for it, George.
You don't need to, right? That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I would say if you want to, you can. If you think it helps you tell the story of yourself as a reliable guide, if you have the picture that you want to put on your bio page, if you decide, the my story or what would we call it on our demo service? History page, right? So it's not necessary. There are reasons why you might want to do that. You might want to do that because you think that by people seeing you, they'll trust you more. You might want to do that because you think that because they're inviting you into their home, that they'll want to know who it is that's walking in. And that might be something you do as part of one of the emails that you send out, or there's other ways that you can address that if that's what you want to get at. So I would just ask the question of what is it you think you're trying to accomplish by doing that? It's not a must. It is a you can.
I would say you need to know why you're choosing to do it one way or the other. There are at least 100,000 stock photography models out there that look way better than I do. I would love to see them on the website instead of me. That being said, if your business, the brand of your business is you, it kind of is a little weird if you are not somewhere on the website. If you have the history page and the history of your company is personally talking about your story, it's a little weird not to have at least something there of you. Maybe have the stock models on your main page that you're using, or stock photography of pianos and things like that, because they look better than you do, or for whatever reason, the lighting was better, or you fill in the blank. And I would also say plan to pay $400 or $500 to a photographer to follow you around for a day with great lighting. So you have some awesome pictures in your brand colors to be able to put on the website. Oh my goodness, that made all the difference in the world when we did that. And every time it cost me $400 or $500. And it was totally worth it, because then I had all this stock photography of our technicians, of me working. And I use that over and over and over again all over the place. And so if you know why you're doing it, if you're not, then it means you have a branded business that is not tied to an individual, and telling the history of the business is not related to the history of an individual. It makes perfect sense to have stock photography, stock models all over the website where you never actually see a picture of the owner. So there's tons of businesses that do that all the time, and you probably hired them last year and you didn't think twice about it. So I'm with George. No, it's not necessary, but there are times when you'd want to do it.
Okay, so we have just a couple more, and we're almost through here. So um, next question is, you mentioned creating separate email accounts for myself and my business, but what if I don't want to check multiple emails?
I'm with you.
Yeah. So if you do create multiple emails for yourself and your business, and you don't want to check multiple emails, if you're using Google, or really if you're using pretty much any service provider, you can forward your emails from one space to another, where it'll be automated that it comes into the inbox and is automatically forwarded to another email. So you just want to look in your rules section of your email to be able to do that.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say, this is managed in the control panel on your domain. And so what I did was I actually had multiple email addresses for multiple domains pointing to multiple places. And I actually manage everything in a single inbox. And all of it points there. And when I reply, it replies from the email address that it went to. And I have separate signatures for each one. So I'm able to check everything all in one place. The one thing I will say is that Google's G Suite, which is the email that Squarespace uses, has some limitations on this. And unless you're like really tech savvy or know how to get around it, I don't. I'm pretty sure Nathan does. But anyway, all that to say, it's not intuitive. So if you're going to register your domain through Squarespace, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say probably through Wix and these other things, those are basic domain managers that don't have control panels, that outsource the email to Gmail. And it's their paid Gmails, like $6 a month per email address. It's much harder to get those accounts to all talk to each other because Squarespace is outsourcing that to Gmail. You're going to need to hire a tech guy to figure that out, or maybe one of our awesome tech guys will figure it out and tell me it was right in front of my nose the whole time. But just as a regular consumer, I couldn't figure it out when I registered an account through Squarespace for a website that we were doing. But I have Bluehost on another thing that I manage, and it was super easy. I just told Bluehost, hey, create this email account and forward it here. I'm done. So.
All right. One last thing I want to toss out. In the poll, we talked about if you'd like to have a website review of any sort, I, as your personal business coach from Gazelle, am here to give a look at your website and give a couple of thoughts. So feel free, just send me an email through growwithgazelle.com, and we'd be happy to do that for you.
And that email address is what, George?
It's george@gazelleapp.io. Or you can access by just using the chat feature in in Gazelle or using on our website, growwithgazelle.com.
Great. Well, thank you all very much. We've appreciated everyone popping in and joining us today, and hope you all have a great evening. Take care.